Hi everyone, it's October 20th and I think it is time to do my officially the last flower arrangement from the cut flower garden of the season. These have been in the bucket. I had cleaned up the beds, I believe around 3 days ago. So these have been sitting in the bucket on the kitchen floor because I just never got around to arranging them, and I don't know what shape they're going to be in. I'm looking over there at the raised bed where the tomatoes and marigolds are, and the marigolds are, I've been cutting them back, but they're still going strong. Peppers are still going strong, and my dahlias from seed, they're still blooming away. So I'm keeping everything, alive. Not really watering much anymore, but I am watering my beds. I planted some more bulbs in the front bed in front of the porch, which is our south-facing garden. And I mentioned to my friend Jen, Pretty Little Garden I think she's in upstate New York in Zone 6B. She had her first frost this week as well. But I had mentioned to her in her comments from her video this morning that we've had 2 nights of frost, and then ironically it got back up to the high 70s. Yeah, let's just get to my cut flower arrangement, the last one of the season. Thanks for joining me. So I have my favorite fall pitcher here, my Le Creuset, that I purchased from Home Goods for I think $12 or $17, and it's become my favorite vessel. And I just fill it up with water, with 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And vinegar kills the bacteria, and the sugar feeds the flowers. So if you have any of those floral life, or there's different brands of floral food, you can use that too. I have those, but I'm saving them for now. I'm using sugar. So I'm not putting in tape, anything like that. I'm just putting it loosely in here because I find the width of this, which is probably about 4 inches, the mouth of this pitcher is about 4 inches, and it seems to be plenty. So yeah, here are some of the marigolds. Not super fresh anymore, but I like the bright yellow in there. If I get a week out of these, it's okay. They're pretty short, but they kind of fill the edges a little bit, which is nice. So I was thinking about what kind of videos I'm going to film over the next few weeks and months. It's my first fall with the channel, and I don't recall watching a lot of garden videos in the fall or winter, so I'm just going to do some things that are kind of garden related, I guess. I have the greenhouse now, so I should be able to record sorry, some of these kind of fun winter projects that we do, like getting our seeds started, doing our cool flowers. I noticed that Steph over in Massachusetts, she's doing her cool flowers. She's already started her seeds under grow lights, and she's planning to put them into her raised garden beds. I think she's going to do them this winter. But for me, I think I'm going to wait to do them, to plant them in the ground in the new year, probably in February or March, just because I don't know. I think in cooler climates, cooler zones, we don't have our snow is just probably allergy season, probably too heavy. So I just don't want to risk, growing them for weeks and months under grow lights, and I hadn't started yet either, so it's kind of too late. I haven't started my seedlings yet. So yeah, what I've read in the Cool Flower book and other Cool Flower research is that if you're in a cooler zone, we're in zone 5B in northern Illinois, that it's recommended that we not set out our seedlings until 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost, which our last frost here is end of April, middle of May. So it was pretty much like clockwork. And our last frost this spring was definitely before May. Before Mother's Day weekend. So here's one of the last bunches of Bachelor's buttons, and I'm going to remove the leaves that are lower, that are going to be in the water. I did do pretty deep water, which probably don't need to have that much in there, but I do want to keep some of the green foliage so that it acts as a filler, a nice greenery filler, but I also don't want the leaves immersed in the water. So there's really only one blue flower that's open, and I don't think most of these are going to. Ooh, this one got cut, but it's got a little blue tinge, but this one's definitely spent. So I think I'm going to have that be the tall. Yeah, it's a little bit tall. There we go. So the zinnias, when I was cleaning out the bed a couple days ago, the few zinnias I collected are really tiny, really small. This is a Queenie Lime Orange series, and usually in the summer they're about this big, a little bit bigger, so they're about double the size. Here's one here, sort of a typical size. So you see the difference. But if anyone's wondering why I didn't collect any of my seeds this year when I was cutting everything back, and the reason for that is I think I'd mentioned when I purchased my seeds from both Johnny's and I purchased my zinnia seeds from Johnny's and Baker Creek, rareseeds.com. I had ordered quite a few because I was not aware of, how far they would go. I was just buying every Queen Lime series colorway that I really liked. And so I ended up, there's some mold on here. Don't want to put any, yeah. This one is, yeah, not going to do her. Anyway, as I was saying, I just collected so many seeds, or purchased so many seeds, so I'm going to try to use those up, those seed packages, because they're usually only good for a couple of years, and I have enough seeds to do another full season next year. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing in your fall gardens? Have you started growing cool flowers? Have you started garlic? Oh yeah, I do have some garlic that my neighbor Sandy gave me, and I've never grown garlic before. And now that I've cleared out all the tomatoes in the raised bed, there's the last of the amaranth already wilted, but I cut a new thing off, so see if I can make use of that. I love the amaranth and the fall bouquets. And I think you saw that my snapdragon bed is still alive, doing well. Haven't cleared that out. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, snapdragons, if you have space for cut flowers, whether it's in a container or in your beds or raised beds, whatever you have available, I highly recommend snapdragons for a beginner or someone who's been doing flowers for a long time, assuming you like them. I think they were the first ones to go in. They were definitely the first ones to go into my raised beds and in my containers after my pansies. And they were also the last to continue into late October. So my containers that are in the landscape that have snapdragons, and there's one by the front porch. I think I have 2 or 3 out there with snapdragons. They are still going strong. I just walk by and snip off any of the deadhead by hand, and they're still going strong. The snapdragons are a cool flower, so they can handle a little frost. Look at that one. And one of my favorite shorter varieties of snapdragons, Purple Prince, doing really well. They're perfect for a fall arrangement. So I was talking about garlic. Sorry, I start many sentences and then get distracted. I don't finish my sentences. So later in this video, I might share with you my first experience of planting garlic, because my friend Sandy lives in the neighborhood. She brought me a couple of garlic heads that I'm gonna break apart and maybe grow where my tomatoes were. And if they come up in early spring, then that'd be great, because I don't want them taking up the space in those beds where my tomatoes are. But I'll test them out. I'll grow them. Maybe I'll grow them under the obelisks. I'll see. I think in some of my early videos, I showed my packages of the different varieties of snapdragons I use. So if you want to know which varieties I used, you can reference back, because I know I shared them there. But this was a mixed variety that yes, these are from, I think they were called like a tall variety from Baker Creek, and they came with this apricot and pink, as well as some white in there. So they've been really prolific. And when I first started doing my cut flower arrangements this spring and summer, I think I started cutting from the garden in June, planted them in May. I was doing just snapdragons in vases in the vase, and they look so pretty and full. I think some people might use snapdragons as a filler flower, but I think they can also be a focal flower. My delphiniums, speaking of cool flowers, are still doing well in the beds, and I think only one of the plants flowered this year, so I'm leaving them because they're a perennial. They're in my front bed, and the first bed on the left hand side after you enter into the cut flower garden, and so I'm really excited about those. Ooh, I have some more. And it's in the same bed as these Bachelor buttons. So I'm gonna have some cool flowers and filler flowers in the first two beds as you enter the raised garden bed area, and so that way I'll have 2 full beds, hopefully, next year, filled with filler flowers, delphiniums, bachelor's buttons, yarrow. I'm going to grow some yarrow next year. I have some seeds that I ordered about a month ago, and those will also be a perennial next year. They should come back the following year. I hesitated with yarrow, but was convinced by other cut flower farmers to grow them because they're such an easy perennial cut flower. I've grown those before in my landscape gardens back in Canada, and to be honest, didn't love the mustardy smell of them. Like I said, I'm just using a lot of this for greenery. I'm just cutting off the obvious spent buds. But yeah, I really love that Bachelor's buttons are wonderful for using for greenery. I'm gonna cut some of these ones that aren't doing. Get some of this deadness here. I should just cut it off. This one's actually looking super dry. Bye-bye. We have enough here. Honestly, I think this amaranth is not going to last long, but let's prop her up in the middle. I was a little bit late in arranging these. I guess it's just been a busy few days with the start of the weekend and activities with the kids, garden cleanup, planted some bulbs yesterday and the day before, and I wanted to get those in the ground while the weather was nice and cool. Honestly, didn't anticipate. Look how there's this burgundy in the middle. Oh, there's a burgundy one. And this was a mix. This Bachelor button package was a mix. I call it the red, white, and blue. But I love that the burgundy came up later in the season. So last year I didn't treat the Bachelor's buttons, or this spring I should say. I keep thinking it was last year, early in the season in the spring. I didn't treat these as a cool flower in that I sowed them and put them under grow lights in later on in the spring, so they didn't come out until out into the garden as seedlings. They didn't go into the garden until probably June, when those last few beds were ready. So that's why they're such a late bloomer. But if you treat them like a cool flower and put them in the ground as early as February, March, they'll actually be an early spring bloomer. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, because I plan to grow them as a cut flower and start preparing the seedlings early. It'll be one of the first ones that I start my seedlings. So last year I started with pansies, stock, and then Snapdragons. This year I will start with cool flowers, and that would be Bachelor's buttons, Snapdragons. I'm not doing stock this year. I think I mentioned this guy's really wilted. I'm just really in love with these. Look at that. So I think I'm just going to do one big arrangement, one last big arrangement. I got a signal that breakfast is ready. So maybe I'll pause. And this sad. I'm gonna prop this guy up. Crane from Cranery Gardens, I think it's called. Anyway, his name is Crane. I love his colorful bouquets. His channel's all about all of his cut flowers in his yard, and he only started gardening 3 years ago, which is incredible to me. You don't need years and years of experience. I mean, I've been gardening for, 30 years, and this was my first year growing these kind of cut flowers. I had never grown cut flowers in a raised bed like this. I'd only grown them in my landscape, and really ever, mostly perennials. I'd never done annual cut flowers. So yeah, I'm just thrilled with, that's what I love about gardening. There's just so much to learn. So many new varieties that, didn't exist when my mom was gardening. Even she loved painted daisies, and I think zinnias have taken over that. So here's a sad one, like underneath it's all, but yet just appreciating the beauty of the colors in there. And sometimes you can just pull off these spent petals underneath that are like going to seed. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just pulling off all these brown petals because they're just so pretty in the middle. And if I bury it into the center of the arrangement, you won't see. Get rid of the foliage that's burnt. But look at, it's so pretty. I'm just so sad. I'm gonna put her in there and see how you can kind of like still see the bright limey orange. Oh. I'm so sad, honestly, about the zinnias being done. That's why they were number 2 in my video. I hope you caught it. If you can look back on it, my top 10 cut flowers, and zinnias were my number 2, and my number 1 favorite are Snapdragons. And clearly it's because Snapdragons are still doing well and zinnias are finished. But I did grab a handful of blooms when I took down my 2 zinnia beds. And even though these are spent, like look at that bright coral one. It's almost red, but I think it's the coral. And it's half done over here, but it's just so vivid that I'm gonna put it in here just to pop, because it's gonna go in the dining room and it's somewhat dark in there. Here's the last of the purple, which was in the first bed where I just filled in a few zinnia seeds, threw them, direct sowed them with the delphiniums and the Bachelor's buttons and African daisies, and got a couple in there. So that's what's great about making arrangements just for the home, is that they don't have to be perfect blooms that, you know, that are fresh and for resale purposes. They're just for at home. I mean, you can buy grocery store flowers that are somewhat spent and they're charging full price for them, right? So, because they've been sitting in the buckets for a few days in the refrigerator. So this is a perfect example of branching snapdragons. There were 3 stems coming out of this main stalk, and I just broke off the one that was already spent, but these are still, I got some new buds up here, and there's a couple buggy ones, but I'm gonna drop it in anyway. This is going to be a really full arrangement instead of trying to do, because there's several in here that just aren't going to make it. That buttercream one. So I owe a little gift to my neighbors that looked after when we were in Maine a few weeks ago. I owe them something, and I'm trying to think of a gift, a thank you gift. And I brought them back some blueberry jam from Maine, but my flowers were just not fresh enough to do anything with, to make a bouquet for them. And I've given them at least 2 bouquets already this summer. So I'm just like, what can I give them? I don't have any. I know they grow tomatoes in their raised bed, just across the way there. So I'm sort of like, what can I give them? So if you have any ideas, I'm thinking I'm gonna bake something, some pumpkin squares, and bring that over before Thanksgiving. Maybe I'll do that this week once the kids are back to school. And yeah, I think that would be a nice Thanksgiving gift to give thanks for being such great neighbors. Just going to tuck a couple of these in here, these shorter marigolds, and then I think we'll call it a day for this bouquet. Oh, there's a pretty one. Just get rid of all these leaves that are already turning brown. Actually, this is the front, I think. as promised, I thought I'd share with you how I planted garlic. My neighbor had given me a couple of bulbs, or heads, or knobs, they call these bunches of garlic. And I just cut off the stems at the top and loosely broke apart the different cloves, the individual cloves, and they were pretty small bulbs or heads, so I only got 4 cloves out of each one. And I thought of separating them further, but I decided to just leave them in there. A couple of them felt like there might have been 2 in one of the cloves, but I thought I would just leave that protective skin on there. And I ended up with 4 cloves per bulb or head, which I then brought over to my raised bed area just next to where my tomatoes were. So I cleared away the tomatoes, and I'm going to use this area here to plant the garlic. It's pretty windy out. I might have to do a voiceover, but we'll see. Anyway, I was watching a couple videos today, or yesterday, and this gentleman was doing a test where he did 4 inches deep as well as 7 inches deep, and then just having these just peeking out from the soil. But the problem with that is birds will think that that's a worm or something, and they'll come and take them away. So I don't want to risk that, having to cover them. So I think 4 inches deep is ideal, and about 4 to 6 inches apart. So I can do, on my Japanese knife here, this shows 1, 2, 3, 4 inches deep. So just about there. About 4 to 6 inches apart. So right about there. Another one. And so on. So I'm going to put one here. 4 inches deep. Pointy side up, upward. That might end up being even deeper, but it's roughly that. And then another one here. Face up. Six inches apart. I'll come around and do that one after. This one here.